Before we can actually edit a file, probably the simplest thing you can do in Vi is move around within a file. When I say moving around, I'm talking about simply moving from line to line or moving within a line without actually making any changes to Vi. Now you might think, well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? You just use up and down and the arrow keys and page up, page down, and so on. Well, that might be true and it might not be true. These keys that you're referring to would be PC keyboard special keys. Many Unix terminals don't have these keys on them. Most of the recent ones do, but some of the earlier Unix keyboards did not. And what you'll find is that even though the keyboard that you might be using has those keys on it, the version of Vi that you're using may not accommodate those keys. So you could, for example, use the down arrow key to move down to the next line and find that it doesn't do anything at all, that perhaps Vi just beeps at you saying, I don't understand that. So it's just important to know that you might not be able to use those keys. And if you can't, you need to learn all the other keys that are used when using Vi. So I'll show them to you now. Before I do show them to you, I'm just going to show them to you in list format. And in the list, if you see a little tick box next to a particular command, that means that you could prefix a number onto the command itself. So if the command was, for example, J, which you'll find soon means to go down one line, instead of typing in J, you could type in 5J or 35J, which instead of taking you down one line would then take you down 5 lines or 35 lines. So the ones with the tick box allow that sort of prefixing with the number, and if it doesn't have a tick box then you can't do that. Needless to say that every command here that I'm going to show you must be issued in command mode. So make sure you're in command mode before you do any of these. If you ever are not sure if you're in command mode or not, a useful tip is to just press escape. What that will do is will automatically take you into command mode if you're not in command mode already, and if you are in command mode it will simply do nothing at all. So you know that every time you've pressed escape you're guaranteed to be in command mode. Anyway, on with the commands. Moving around within the current line first. Now, if you type in space or the L key, that will move ahead one character. Note that you can also try and use the right arrow, but the right arrow may or may not work. Space and L will definitely work. So here I am in the file. I type in space a few times, and you can see the cursor moving along through the file. I'll also now try typing in L instead. You'll just have to take my word for it that I'm typing L. And again, I'm moving through the file. Incidentally, on this particular keyboard, in this particular version of Vi and Telnet, the right arrow key is also working beautifully, as you can see. Now to go back on the current line, use backspace or H. Now notice that both of these and the previous ones can also be prefixed by a number, and I'll show you that. I'm hitting the backspace key now and I'm moving backwards. And now what I'll do is, from this point here, I'll just type in the number 5, and now I'll type in the backspace. So notice that it jumped 5 spaces back. Also the H key is working as well. The $ will take you to the last character on the line, whilst the up hat or caret character, or 0 will take you to the first character on the line. And $ takes me to the notice the cursor flashing on the last there, and 0 takes me to the beginning, or $ to the end, and up hat, the caret character, to the beginning. And it makes obviously no sense at all to prefix any of those commands with some kind of number. Slightly more complex than any of the commands above is you type in the letter F followed by some character. So you might type in FP or F space or F question mark or FJ or F6. And what that will do is it will move the cursor to the next instance of that character on that line. Now let's say I wanted to jump through the various commas on this line. I could type in F, comma, F, comma, F, comma, and each time I type in those two characters it jumps me to the next comma. Or I could type in F, S, and it jumps me to the next S. And finally, for moving around, if I use the semicolon, it takes me to the next instance of character X. So I don't actually have to keep going F, P, FP, FP, FP. I can do my first FP, and then for all the subsequent P's that I want to find, I can just type in the semicolon. Let's say I wanted to find all the N's on this line. I could type in FN, and it takes me to the next N. And now I'll just, instead of typing F anything, I'll just type semicolon. So semicolon, 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 and there's no more. Now, to move between lines, we can start with the following. The Enter key, or J, or the plus sign will move me to the next line. You can try and use the down arrow too, and it may or may not work. Now I'm going to use the Enter key 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to use J 1, 2, 3, and I'll use plus 1, 2, 3, and all of those, as you can see, work. You can use K or minus to go back to the previous line. And I'll use minus 1, 2, 3, or K 1, 2, 3, and incidentally the up arrow key also works on this particular keyboard. Now you might be wondering, why do they choose J and K? Well, if you notice that, if you recall from the last slide, that H was the character to go back and L was the character to go forward on one line, and H, J, K and L are all next to each other on your keyboard. H to move left, L to move right, and J and K to move up and down. So theoretically, people on those old keyboards that didn't have arrow keys, they just rested their forefingers on H, J, K and L and used those to go around their document. Moving along, we've got Control F to go forward one page. You can think of that as a page down, or Control B to go back one page, and Control D to go down half a page, and Control U to go up half a page. Let's have a look at those. Now I'll go forward one page, Control F, scrolls me down a page, or B to go back to the page that I was on. Now I'll use Control D to go down half a page. That's gone down half a page. And I'll go down half a page more. Now I'll go up half a page, and up half a page again. Next we have capital G, which, when used by itself, simply means go to the last line in the file. However, you can also use capital G prefixed by a number, which means go to the first line in the file. If you use the number 1, or if you use any number n, go to line n in the file. So let's have a look at that. First I'll use G by itself, so capital G. Notice it has to be a capital. Okay, so we've gone to the very last line of the file. Now I'll type in 1, capital G, and it takes me to the top line in the file. And now I'll type in, say, 10, 1, 0, capital G, and it's taken me to the 10th line in the file.